we're going to talk, as we do every Friday, about the newest episode of The Mandalorian, in this case, known as the episode titled The Jedi. And now, of course, that title was released last week, which meant we all knew that this was going to be the episode that Ahsoka Tano was going to make her appearance. And after the events of the last two episodes, it's going to have given us kind of that little bit of a cliffhanger leading up to this moment. So, watch the Mandalorian episode, The Jedi, yesterday. What did I think about it? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I really liked the episode. Was it the best episode of Mandalorian? No, but it was really good. And I'll tell you what else. The Ahsoka Tano character, which everybody knows that I am not a fan of the Ahsoka Tano character. I mean, so there were episodes in Rebels where they used her quite well. Not always, but there were some that they did. But that's just me. That's a character that I don't care for. And so I've been a little skeptical about this episode. Alleviated a lot by the fact that they got the magnificent Rosario Dawson to play her. You guys know, the moment they announced Rosario Dawson was playing this character, I got quite excited. I'm like, okay, that's some brilliant casting right there. So what did I think of? Well, look, I'll tell you right now, I actually quite liked it, and I really liked her in it. But I'm gonna let's go on a little side trip here for a second. Let's do a little side trip here for a second. So I know that you guys know that I'm not a big fan of the Ahsoka Tano character. I know that you guys know that. And so this morning, I get up and I'm doing some work on today's show, and I post the show at around 7:30, 7:45 a.m. this morning. I post the live event that starts at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And the title of the episode was exactly what you see it is now, like Mandalorian, The Jedi Review, and Godzilla vs. Kong Move. That was the title I made the show at about 7:30, 7:45 this morning. So about 15 minutes or so after I post the live event, I see one of the comments in the live comment section, in the live comment stream, pops up and says, "Campea better not say he didn't like this episode or I'm unsubscribing." To which I went, that sounds like a dare. So I decided shortly after posting the live event that I was going to change the title of the event. And I recorded myself as I did it. And I put this little video up for those of you who have not seen this video that I put up a couple hours before this episode began. I saw that comment saying, "Campea didn't like this episode, I'm going to unsubscribe." So I'm like, okay, that sounds like a dare. And so I did this, and I posted it on my YouTube channel a little bit earlier. Okay, so it's a few hours before the show starts today. What day is it today? It's Friday, November the 27th. So last night was the Mandalorian episode with Ahsoka Tano in it. Now, I don't like the Ahsoka Tano character. Everybody who watches my show knows that. But I've been pretty excited about Rosario Dawson playing her, to be honest. But, even your best friend has a habit that drives you crazy a little bit, or your brother or sister has a habit that drives you crazy a little bit. I really like Dave Filoni. Some people think I don't. I actually really do. I quite like Rebels. But the one habit he has that has always kind of driven me crazy, he seems to be completely obsessed with Ahsoka. Like, everything's got to be Ahsoka focused, and that kind of drives me nuts. But whatever. So I watched the Mandalorian episode last night, and I really liked it. And I really like the Ahsoka Tano character in it, to be honest. So I'm going to talk about that during the show today. But everybody expects that I'm not going to like it because it's Ahsoka. And I understand why, because I've traditionally said I don't like the character. So I decided to have a little fun for myself today, and I made the title of today's episode, and I'm going to change it, but I made the title of today's episode, How Ahsoka Tano Ruined the Mandalorian with Her Suckiness. even though I actually quite liked the episode, and I liked Ahsoka in it. But I just want to see. And so you can see it's still like a couple hours before the show starts. And let me see if I can get this in here. The chat board. The chat board is like, "John, what are you doing? Why didn't you like it?" And everybody's freaking out. Just having some fun today. I just can't wait for the show to start. So yeah, that was me this morning, having some fun. I just sat back, and I know a lot of people were really pissed, and I just sat in my chair and I laughed for like an hour and a half. And then I said, okay, I had enough fun. I put it back to the regular title. All right. With that said, let's actually talk about the episode here. So this episode, and I'm not going to go into specific plot details, okay? I'm not going to go into specific plot spoilers. I will talk about some general broad scoping things like I would any other movie I'd be reviewing, but I'm not going to get into specific story points or specific big reveals. Ann and I, my wife Ann and I, will be doing our weekly Mandalorian spoiler discussion review today at 4 o'clock. So today at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, come on back. Ann and I will do like a full hour or more of just open, full spoiler discussion about today's episode of The Mandalorian. But I'm going to talk about some generalities here, okay? So let's start with this. When they announced that this week's episode was going to be The Jedi, we knew this was the episode that was going to have the Ahsoka Tano character. And, of course, if the Ahsoka Tano character is going to be in it, you know that Dave Filoni will absolutely have to direct it. Hell, I criticize Dave Filoni because I think he's a little bit too obsessed with this character, but even I said for weeks, it would be a total missed opportunity if you don't have Dave Filoni directing the episode as Ahsoka Tano. You have to have Dave Filoni direct that episode. Now, look, I said that last season, probably the two worst episodes of Mandalorian, and I love Mandalorian season 1, but probably the two least great episodes of Mandalorian in season 1 were the ones that Dave Filoni directed. And Dave Filoni has an amazing attitude. If you watch the behind the scenes documentary on Disney Plus about the making of Mandalorian season 1, Dave Filoni, as a Hollywood director, said one of the most impressive things, honestly, one of the most impressive things ever, when he's on set for the first time, getting ready for the first time in his life to direct live action, and he's got a camera in his face, and he looks at the camera and goes, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I've never done this before. I have no idea how to direct live action. Thank God I've got Jon Favreau here to mentor me. And I remember thinking to myself, holy shit, that's impressive. That's impressive, because a guy who has as much natural talent as a Dave Filoni does, who approaches this with the attitude of, I know nothing, I'm here to learn, that kind of guy has no limit to his potential. And I've been saying for weeks, for you guys who watch my show, you know I've been saying for weeks, you watch Dave Filoni's next couple of things that he directs live action are going to be exponentially better than the other ones, because the other ones was his first time out of the gate. He's now done it. He has learned a bunch. He still has a lot more to learn. But I said for weeks, you watch, his work is going to get exponentially better, because now he's got a little bit of experience under his belt. He's got the perfect attitude. You watch. And I think this episode, while not perfect, I thought this episode showed a live action directing Dave Filoni, personally, that I think were leaps and bounds beyond the Dave Filoni we saw directing for the first time ever in his life directing live action. I think this Dave Filoni was leaps and bounds ahead of that one. The episode still had issues. I won't get into the specifics of those issues. We will in the spoiler discussion. I still did think this episode had some issues. But let's talk about the main event. Let's talk about Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka Tano. Piggybacking on some of the concerns I had going into the episode, Dave Filoni has a history of making Ahsoka Tano the centerpiece and most important thing in everything. He turned Clone Wars into the Ahsoka Tano show. He then was doing Rebels, had to bring her into there and had to have her be the one to have a big fight with Vader at the end. And now we come into Mandalorians, got to have Ahsoka Tano come in. So I was worried, unfoundedly, and as it turns out, needlessly, I was worried that Dave Filoni was going to, bring Ahsoka in and make her like the big shiny diamond and everything's about her. And you know what? Dave Filoni didn't do that. Dave Filoni didn't do that, which is another sign to me about his maturation as a director. because he made the Ahsoka character just like the way they used Cobb the Marshal in episode 1, just like the way they used Bo-Katan, and I believe it was episode 3 that they used Bo-Katan, just like they've used all these characters this season. He didn't make her any more and any less important than any of those characters. Didn't make her any more or any less important than any of those characters. She communicated some very important information in the episode. She did. She communicated some very important information in the episode. But at the end of the day, Dave Filoni went, you know what? I'm not going to give this character special treatment. This is the Mandalorian show. She's going to play a role and a function in this episode, just like Cobb did, just like Bo-Katan did, and I'm not going to give her any more special attention other than that, even though it's his favorite little character. And by the time this episode ended, and you know what? That made the episode better. That made the episode better. And I sat back and went, holy shit, Dave Filoni, man. Well done. Well, not only did he direct a really good episode, it seems like he reeled back a little bit that over-enthusiastic favoritism he has for this one particular character. And because he did that, the character was really able to shine. That's the irony in this for me, is that Dave Filoni not heaping all the attention on the Ahsoka Tano character, to me actually made the Ahsoka Tano character better. And it probably had a little something to do with Rosario Dawson's interpretation and portrayal of the character. That probably had a little something to do with it. You got to say that probably had a little something to do with it. But still, I was very impressed. They start off, again, I'm not going to go into details, but the episode starts off with a bang. Episode starts off with a huge crowd-pleasing bang. And then they go through it. They explain some things. They do some things. Whatever. Very, very good job. I will say this, though. You guys know how I've been saying that this whole season has been about the journey is the story. Every single episode this season has been the same basic structure. Mando needs something from a place. He meets somebody who can provide him with what he needs, whether it's an object, whether it's directions, whether it's information, whatever. Mando goes to a place. He meets somebody that has something that he needs. Before he can get what he needs from that person, he first needs to do something for them first. He does that thing for them or with them, and then he sort of gets what he needs. Either it's the next step in his journey or the next piece of information or the next direction he gets from them by the end of the episode. This episode is exactly the same, and I love it. I love that Filoni took this episode to do what he did and showed his maturation as a director. I love that Favreau has made every episode this season follow that structure, emphasizing that it's the Mandalorian's journey. It's Din's journey that is the important story. It's not where does Baby Yoda end up. It's the journey that's the story. And I thought it was played out really, really well. I thought the villain of the week was really good. I thought it was a really interesting little villain of the week. Not a lot of time or attention paid to her, but still it was a good villain of the week. And it ends up with, Mando going off into the next part of his journey. Fabulous. And now I'm going to look forward to next week. So again, Ann and I will go into more specifics. I will say this, though. We all knew that Michael Biehn was going to be appearing in Mandalorian this season. And I got to say, I got a huge, because you got to understand, I love Michael Biehn. Michael Biehn is an actor who I believe should have been, like if you go back 25 years, Michael Biehn should have been an actor who was up there with the names of Brad Pitt, George Clooney. He should have been a big-time A-list movie star because he's great. I've always been a fan of Michael Biehn. And I've never really understood why he was never able to crack that and be that elite of the elite of the elite. Because I think he's got all the gifts. I think he's got the charm. I think he's got the movie star looks. I think he's got the talent. So anyway, just seeing Michael Biehn pop up on screen. And again, I won't go into the details of his character here. Ann and I will talk more about that a little bit later. But the moment he popped up on screen, I was just grinning like an idiot. I'm sitting on the chair. We got my mother-in-law was over here for Thanksgiving, and Ann was here, and Ray was here, and I'm just sitting on the couch. I like seeing Michael Biehn on screen. I just thought it was fabulous and fantastic. So listen, do I think it's the best episode of Mandalorian? No. But it was really, really good. And it was enjoyable, and it was fun. And considering that the guest appearance of the week was a character that I generally don't like, and I ended up quite liking the character and the way they handled it, and count me as being continuously impressed by the evolution of Dave Filoni from those first episodes he directed in episode 1 to him demonstrating a perfect attitude for a director to have. Now seeing him direct the next thing, and you just see that maturation and him being able to express that inner talent. I gotta say, man, I walked away. I don't know about you guys, but I walked away from that episode really happy. I gotta say, I walked away from that episode really happy. And maybe we'll be looking at a Cobb spinoff series, or a Bo-Katan spinoff series, or an Ahsoka Tano spinoff series. Maybe all these characters just brought in so they can all kind of gang up together at the end of the season. I mean, who knows where things are going to go? All I know is that the journey is the story, and this step in the journey, I thought was really quite good. You know, it's always great as a storytelling fan when a movie or TV show meets those expectations that you have. But it's extra special when a movie or TV show exceeds your expectations, especially if you had a little bit of pessimism going into it, as I did. And listen. And the next time they use Ahsoka Tano and she bothers me, I'll tell you she sucks. But I got to call it like I see it. They did a really good job with her this episode, and I loved watching her. So, hey, it is what it is. Don't forget, guys, once again, 4 o'clock today, 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Ann and I will be doing our open spoiler discussion of this week's episode. And by the way, how about that name drop? Oh my God, how about that name drop? I'm going to tell you something else. You guys know I knew a lot of the information about this season of The Mandalorian. You guys know that. I've communicated some of it. Everything I was told and everything I told you was going to happen this season has happened. But I had no idea. Even I, who had some like really good insider information from people connected to the show, even I had no idea that name drop was coming. I had no idea that name drop was coming. And so the name drop happened. I'm like, my smile just from how good the episode was and seeing Michael Biehn went from this to... like I just about freaked out, but again, Ann and I will talk about that at 4 o'clock later today. Question is for you guys. What did you think about this episode of The Mandalorian, the Jedi? Was it as good as you were hoping? You know, I read some people saying, I read some comments online from people. Remember, there's a lot of people who watch Mandalorian that this is kind of like their introduction to Star Wars. Because of Baby Yoda, a lot of people started watching The Mandalorian as their first Star Wars thing. I've read some comments today from people who have never watched, you know, the Clone Wars or Rebels or anything like that. And they were like, this episode wasn't all that good. And I get it. Maybe if you knew nothing about it, maybe there was nothing exceptional about what happened in this particular episode. I saw the same kind of criticism for the Bo-Katan episode too. It's like, okay, a couple other Mandalorians show up. What's the big deal? Because they didn't know what happens in Rebels or in whatever, like with the Bo-Katan character. So it left them a little bit shallow. I can see how that would happen. I get that. But hey, a lot of us who watch Mandalorian are Star Wars fans, and so we get what we get out of it. What do you guys think about it? Jump on down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts.